hit that like button and subscribe.
Welcome to The Debate. Today, we're diving headfirst into a really fascinating, high-stakes piece of media analysis. We're looking at a deep dive interview titled, Not a Side Chick, Micca Breaks Her Silence on Anton Daniels.
Wait, seriously? We're doing this?
We are, because it is a massive moment in the independent media space. We have Micca, also known as Pop Coach Micca, finally sitting down to clear her name. She is a professional, conservative woman, a business owner, and she is dismantling a year's worth of rumors about her relationship with the entrepreneur Anton Daniels. I really see it as an empowering look at a woman, reclaiming her narrative.
Oh, come on. Empowering? I watched the exact same 40 minutes you did, and what I saw was a hostage video. Except she was holding herself hostage. It wasn't a reclamation of narrative. It was someone frantically trying to put toothpaste back in the tube while the bathroom was, well, already on fire.
I think you are being incredibly cynical right out of the gate.
Cynical? Or do I just have eyes? The entire premise of this supposed powerful moment is that she has to prove she isn't a side chick to a married man. My position is simple. If your business relationship is so strictly professional that you need a 40-minute sit-down to explain why you aren't sleeping together, the business model is already broken. The interview actually makes the situation look messier, not cleaner.
See, I understand why you might think that initially, but let me give you a different perspective. My stance is that this is about the reality of being a woman in the public eye. The internet creates these wild narratives, and she is systematically addressing them with evidence. She starts by defining the relationship strictly as business. She clarifies that she was a contractor for Anton's show, Room 9, which used to be After Hours. She isn't just hanging around for fun. She is on the payroll.
Right.
She even discloses the specific pay range. She was making between $2,235 and $3,500 a month for appearing on Thursdays and Fridays. That is receipts. That is transparency.
You're throwing out numbers like they sanitize the situation. Look, here's a spreadsheet, so obviously nothing weird happened. $3,500 a month doesn't explain the geography. She flies from DC to Detroit. Anton pays for the flights. Anton pays for the hotels. She is working intimately with him for over a year, staying in hotels he books, and yet, and this is the part that made me literally yell at my screen, Anton has never met her husband in person. Not once.
That is an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. Micca addresses this explicitly, and I thought her reasoning was very sound. She compares the independent media landscape to working for a major corporation. She asks, effectively, if I worked for Disney, would my husband need to meet the CEO of Disney?
Wait, seriously? You're going with the Disney defense?
It is a valid analogy. In the modern gig economy, just because you have a boss doesn't mean your families merge. She states unequivocally, I tell my husband everything.
That is absurd. Anton Daniels isn't Bob Iger running a multinational conglomerate from a glass tower. He's a YouTuber with a reputation for messy content. This isn't a corporate office with an HR department and a break room policy. It's a one-on-one dynamic. Even the interviewer, who clearly wanted to be on her side, pushed back on this. He noted that independent media is personal. You have direct access. And let's not forget the cake bake.
The what?
The cake bake. The interviewer brought it up. It's the concept where guys in this industry use a fake business agenda to lure women in. Micca admits she was a fan and consumer of Anton's content before he randomly emailed her. He flew her out, he put her in a hotel. That isn't a job interview at Disney. That is a casting call for a situation that usually ends very differently.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning because you are imposing a very dark motive on what she describes as a huge career opportunity. She's building a brand, and look at the business meeting at the basketball game.
Oh, please tell me you aren't about to defend the basketball game.
I absolutely am. This is a perfect example of high-level networking. Micca explains that Anton had business meetings at the arena, which is common for high rollers and entrepreneurs, and he invited her along. She notes they sat courtside for maybe 10 minutes before going back to a suite. It wasn't a date, it was exposure to potential business partners.
A business meeting where you sit courtside at an NBA game with another woman's husband? Come on. If I told my partner, hey, I'm flying to Detroit to sit on the floor of a Pistons game with a guy I met on the internet, but don't worry, it's strictly networking, my clothes would be on the lawn when I got back.
Even the interviewer looked at her like she was crazy. He pointed out that optics matter. But Micca's point is that because she knew the truth, she didn't care about the optics. She said, I have nothing to hide. If I wanted to hide something from my spouse, I would have never posted. That is a very strong psychological argument. Guilty people hide, innocent people post on Instagram.
Or arrogant people post because they think they can spin it later. She was leveraging the clout. She admits she was there to network with high net worth individuals in the suite, but she looked like his date. She looked like a prop.
She wasn't a prop, she was a +1 for business. And she explicitly says, regarding that time on the court, I'm not leaning into him.
Okay, we have to talk about the leaning, because this is the second major point of contention. The visual evidence, there is that specific photo where she appears to be leaning affectionately on Anton. The interviewer said he was flabbergasted because her eyes looked seductive, and her arm was relaxed on a married man's shoulder.
Seductive is a subjective term. Micca provides a very rational, technical explanation. She argues that it is a matter of camera angles and timing. She says, to me, I'm not leaning into him. She also points out that there is a physical gap between their bodies if you look closely. We have to be careful about interpreting static images without context. She also notes that she has taken similar photos with other co-hosts. It's just her friendly demeanor.
Wait, seriously? It was the camera angle? That is the dog ate my homework of the internet age. The interviewer, a man by the way, said there is no way his wife would be physically touching or leaning on another man in a way that suggests she is feeling him. That is the core of it. It's about energy. Even if their torsos aren't surgically fused together, the body language screams intimacy. And then there's the verbal flirting. You can't blame camera angles for what came out of their mouths.
Now, this is where the conversation gets very sophisticated regarding the nature of content. This is the part I found fascinating. Micca explains that when Anton calls her beautiful or gorgeous on air, it is performance art. It is for the chat. It is for the algorithm. She admits she was initially off-put, but she realized it was a tactic to get a reaction from the audience. It is strictly business. It is a role she is playing to drive engagement.
I was flirting with a married man for the algorithm. That might be the most dystopian sentence I have ever heard.
It's the creator economy.
It's gaslighting. Oh, honey, I didn't mean it when I gazed into his eyes and let him call me gorgeous. I was just doing it for the super chats. Give me a break. Hiding behind the show to disrespect your marriage and his marriage is wild. The interviewer even asked if she thinks she looks better than Anton's wife, and Micca refused to answer, calling the question disrespectful.
Which it was. It was a highly disrespectful question. It showed incredible restraint that she didn't answer.
It was a dodge. And let's talk about the wife, Rita, because Micca uses Rita as a shield. She says Rita's there 99.9% of the time and even books the flights. You seem to think this proves innocence.
I absolutely do. If there were an affair, would the wife be the travel agent? Would the wife be sitting in the studio? The fact that Rita is facilitating the logistics proves that everyone involved, Anton, Rita, Micca, understands the difference between the on-air persona and the off-air reality. Micca says explicitly, Anton has a persona online. We cannot judge their private morality by their public performance.
I come at it from a totally different way. I think it makes it 10 times worse. You have the wife sitting 10 feet away, booking the Ubers while her husband is on camera calling another woman gorgeous, and that woman is soaking it up. That isn't professional, that is a humiliation ritual. The presence of the wife doesn't make it right, it just makes it brazen. And Micca admits that despite Rita being there, the narrative got out of control. Why? Because the behavior was inappropriate regardless of who was watching.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. Maybe they are just more secure in their relationships than the average person. Maybe they understand that content is a product. But look, we have to move on to the third substantive area, because this wasn't just about the scandal. It was about her intellectual identity. Micca identifies as a Trump Republican or MAGA Republican.
Oh, here we go.
No, listen. She articulates a clear political philosophy. She argues that Donald Trump isn't racist and defends his immigration policies by claiming that resources given to immigrants in places like Chicago are being taken directly from Black communities. She views herself as a principled Afro-Latina and indigenous woman standing against what she calls the lamestream media. It is a coherent, if controversial, ideological stance.
Coherent, it was a word salad. She claims immigrants are taking resources, then says she's indigenous, then defends Trump sharing a racist video of the Obamas by saying mainstream media doesn't allow for nuance. Nuance? In a video depicting a former president as an ape?
Wait, seriously? That isn't political philosophy. That is internet brain rot. But honestly, the politics is just the wrapper. The real meat is why she actually left the show.
And that is a crucial point that clears her name regarding the rumors. She didn't leave because of the affair allegations. She left because of the incident with Corey Holcomb. For context, Corey Holcomb was a guest who allegedly insulted her, calling her a derogatory name and accused Anton of kissing up to white people. Micca frames her departure as a moment of profound self-respect. She realized Anton did not advocate for her. That's a nice way of putting it. She said Anton was too busy arguing his own points to defend her honor.
Exactly. She wanted a business partner who would provide covering. That's the word she used. When Anton failed to prioritize her defense over his own ego or content, she walked away. That demonstrates integrity. She didn't stay for the check, she left for the principle.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. She didn't leave because of the principle. She left because she got publicly humiliated. She claims to be a private person. She used the Pisces defense, which made me laugh, but she voluntarily went on a platform known for messiness and toxicity. You can't swim in the sewer and then complain that you smell like sewage. She only found her self-respect when the heat got too high. She wanted the high-value man protection from Anton, and when she realized she was just content for him, she bailed.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning, because she explicitly states that the images corroborated a narrative that wasn't true, and she didn't want to keep defending a lie. She realized the environment was no longer serving her, and she walked away with the lesson.
Oh, the lesson. Please enlighten us on the lesson.
The lesson she articulates is that in the future, business partners must meet her husband to avoid these narratives. She says, it is important for your spouse to meet everybody. She acknowledges that the lack of contact between Anton and her husband allowed the rumors to fester. That shows growth. She is admitting a procedural error without admitting to moral failure.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered that the real lesson should be don't sit courtside with another woman's husband and post it on Instagram if you don't want people to think you're a side check? The lesson isn't about introductions, it's about boundaries. She says she blames the public for having eyes, essentially. She says they want you to be messy. No, Micca, you were messy. You posted the pictures.
But that brings us back to the core conflict, the difference between reality and perception. Micca's position is that she is definitely happily married. She says she has nothing to hide, but she also admits it was embarrassing because the narrative wasn't true.
It's not a paradox. It's a lack of self-awareness. She says she's happily married, but notice what she doesn't say. She says she can't speak for how her husband felt about the memes and the headlines. She refuses to say, my husband was furious. She dances around it.
She is respecting his privacy. She says, I'm not going to say what my husband felt. That is a boundary she is drawing to protect her marriage from further public scrutiny. That is respectable.
Or she's protecting herself from admitting that her husband was humiliated.
We have to take her at her word. She is a conservative woman who values family, who felt that her business relationship was being weaponized against her. She sat down, she faced the hard questions, including, have you ever had sex with Anton? To which she answered a firm no. And she closed the chapter. She says she and Anton are no longer in contact, they aren't friends, they were business partners, and now that contract is extinguished.
And honestly, that's the only smart thing she did in this whole saga. The unsubscribe button was finally pressed on that relationship. But listening to this interview, it felt like 40 minutes of cognitive dissonance. She wants the clout of the independent media bad boy, but the respectability of the conservative wife. You can't have both. You can't play in the mud and stay clean.
That's an interesting point, though. I would frame it differently. I think she is a pioneer trying to navigate a space where the rules aren't written yet. She is trying to be a content creator, a wife, and a political commentator all at once. Mistakes were made regarding optics, yes, but she is correcting them. She is advocating for the legitimacy of her career.
Legitimacy? She was a prop. She was a prop for a guy who wanted to look like a baller at a basketball game. And when the prop got insulted by another guest, the boss didn't care. That's the reality.
I disagree. She was a paid contractor who brought value to the show, and when that value was no longer reciprocated with respect, she left. That is the definition of professionalism. She stood up for herself.
Professionalism is not needing a break silence interview to explain why you aren't a mistress.
We are approaching the end of our time, and I think we have illuminated the core tension here. On one side, we have Micca's narrative, a business-savvy woman who fell victim to public projection and internet trolls, but who maintains her innocence and her marriage. She brought receipts, she explained the context, and she moved on.
And on the other side, we have reality. A situation that looked bad because it was bad, professionally speaking. A husband kept in the dark, a wife uses as a travel agent, and a business partner who used flirting as engagement bait until it blew up in everyone's face.
Value in this discussion lies in examining how we interpret relationships in the digital creator economy. Are the old rules of corporate etiquette applicable, or do we need to give creators more grace when blurring the lines between content and reality? Micca suggests there is more to explore in how we treat women in these spaces.
And I suggest the lesson is simple. If your boss flies you out, pays for your hotel, but refuses to shake your husband's hand, quit immediately.
Well, there is certainly more to unpack in the source material, but we will leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on The Debate.
And seriously, check your employment contracts, people.
Oh, hit the like button and subscribe. And hit that damn bell.